All right, Skye, I figured I'd make a quick video for you, buddy. What I'm gonna do here is do a couple sirloins. So these aren't ribeyes. It's gonna end up being about the same. These are actually pretty small sirloins. But essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on a rack like this on a table, and then we're gonna take some salt. And what you wanna use is some thicker salt. I don't know how well that's coming through. And we're just gonna salt both sides of it. Pretty generously, to be honest. Now, when you first get steak out, especially if you haven't frozen it, it's gonna be pretty juicy, so it'll absorb the salt pretty easily. I'm just gonna pat it down a tad. I'm gonna salt the other side of it. And this is basically the brining process. So the reason that we want it on a rack like this is so we can get air to both sides, because we want the outside of the steak to be dry when we go to sear it. So right now, both sides have salt on them. They're sitting on a rack that allows air to get to both sides. And then we're gonna throw this in the fridge, and we're gonna leave it there for ideally anywhere from like 12 to 24 hours. Even if you only do it for a few hours, that's fine. It's gonna be a lot better than not brining it. All right. These aren't exactly the most brined. They'd be a little bit drier if I brined them for a day, but I only brined them for a couple hours. So what we're gonna do, on high heat, I'm gonna throw them on here. They've been sitting out for about, I don't know, I'd say a little bit over an hour. Flip them, so I don't want them to burn too much on one side. I'll just flip them back and forth. Now these are sirloins, so it's going to be a little bit tougher. Definitely a little hotter on that end over there. Ooh, that's hot. I have the heat on high right now. Now these are going to be pretty close to done by the time I take them off. They certainly look pretty good. I think I'll take them off here in just a sec. Now I pulled them off, I checked the internal on them. They're at about 10, like right around 100. So I'm gonna throw them in the oven for a few. Not very long at all. All right, I am gonna pull these suckers out. I only had them in there for a couple minutes, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap them in this tin foil here. If I can get my bearings straight. Because I want this thing to soak up the juices again. If you cut into it too soon, what it's gonna do is it's gonna release all the juices. So I already got butter on there. I'm gonna wrap them up, and this is when I'm gonna cook my green beans. I got these on low heat. I'm gonna turn that up a bit. Got the rest of my onion rings going. These are just gonna sit here and let the juices soak back up. All right, let's pull these out. I'm only gonna make one of them today. So what we mean against the grain is if you look at it, the fibers of the steak are running this way, so you want to cut it this way. It's especially important for a sirloin like this. So as we cut into it, we can see this one's a bit more done than what I usually like to make them. They have the gray band, but this one I didn't, it's just a It's a small, thin sirloin. As I'm getting to the thicker part of the steak, this is what I like to see. I'd like to get that gray band a bit farther down so it's not so big, but we get a nice pink through it, cutting against the grain, so you can already tell, like it looks like it'll just fall apart. And you know, for purposes of making the most important people happy. Roxy, Duke, you guys like it? Was it good? Heck yeah. So I gotta say, as I'm looking at this a little more closely now, aside from the gray band, which is that outside portion being a little thick, damn, this is a good steak. I mean, nice and red, super tender, got a little bit of that salty flavor. It's missing one thing. That one thing just came out of the microwave. I like some nice heated béarnaise sauce all over this. All right, we're gonna try one of these in pieces. Look how, you know, it's not stiff. It just kind of wiggles around. You can see cutting across, those muscle fibers aren't like stuck together. Super good. For a sirloin, that is fantastic.